Hi, today I'm going to read V is for Viking, the Minnesota Alphabet by Kathy Jo Worgan. A is for agate, 1 billion years old. Each one has layers of red, orange, and gold. The Lake Superior agate was adopted as Minnesota's official state gemstone in 1969. Recognized by their brilliant colors and intense striped patterns that appear when polished, these stones are mostly comprised of quartz, and their reddish and orange color comes from iron. Lake Superior agates are some of the oldest stones in the world, perhaps dating back to 1 billion or more years ago. They can be found throughout Minnesota near riverbeds and lake shores. B is for bunt pan. We must always mention this round baking pan is a famous invention. The bunt pan revolutionized the way we vision cakes and was created by H. David Delquist of Nordic Ware in 1950. Since that time, more than 40 million bunt cake pans have been sold throughout the world. Imagine all those cakes. And please don't forget, B is for Boundary Waters, a place to protect for all sons and daughters. The Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness is a beautiful and pristine area of more than 1 million acres. Mostly comprised of lakes, islands, and untouched wilderness, only non motorized boats are allowed. It is located in an area of Minnesota called the Arrowhead Country and is part of the Superior National Forest. Charles Schulz is letter C. He drew the peanut strip. And Charles Lindbergh took up flight in a famous solo trip. Charles M. Schulz, 1922 to 2000, grew up in St. Paul and was one of the most successful artists and storytellers ever. His cartoon strip Peanuts was about a boy named Charlie Brown, his dog Snoopy, and his friends Linus, Lucy, Pigpen, and Schroeder. Prior to his Peanuts success, Charles Schulz drew a cartoon strip for the St. Paul Pioneer Press called Little Folks, which appeared from 1947 to 1950. Charles Lindbergh, 1902 to 1974, was born in Detroit, Michigan, but grew up on a farm near Little Falls, Minnesota. On May 20 through 21st, 1927, Charles Lindbergh made the first nonstop solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean in his airplane, named the Spirit of St. Louis. Now the letter D is for Duluth. Its harbor fills with motion as cargo ships make many trips, both to and from the ocean. Toot toot! Duluth has been an important shipping harbor since the 1880s, when flour was shipped from Duluth to Buffalo, New York. As one of the largest inland seaports in the world, Duluth is part of a common harbor shared by its neighbor city, Superior, Wisconsin. Also known as the Twin Ports, ships navigate the icy waters from late March until mid-January. This shipping port averages approximately 40 million metric tons of cargo per year, making it the largest shipping port on the Great Lakes. Ships travel from Duluth to the ocean via the St. Lawrence Seaway. Duluth is also home to the aerial bridge that lifts to allow large ships and boats to pass. E is for the early people and early Minnesota. We must not forget the footsteps of Ojibwa and Dakota. Minnesota's first people were Native Americans who lived amidst the lakes, rivers, streams, plains, and prairies of this state. The Ojibwe and Dakota are only two of many Native American cultures that made this area their home. Today, Native American influence can be seen in many ways. Their place names, ideas, and inventions are important to the lives of all Minnesotans. For instance, the word Minnesota is derived from a Dakota word, Minnesota, which means sky-tinted waters. And forest starts with F. It gives us many goods. Paper, pulp, and furniture are products of our woods. More than 1/3 of Minnesota is covered in forest, and Minnesotans depend on these vast forests for many reasons. In recent years, state forest industries have harvested more than 3 million cords of wood fibers annually, almost as much as during the peak of the white pine era in 1900. Forest based industries such as lumber, wood products, furniture, pulp, and paper making contribute heavily to the economy. However, forest growth and maintenance is important to the health of our woods, and each year far more trees are planted and grown by natural means than are cut down. Minnesotans enjoy their forests and many outdoor recreational activities, such as camping, hiking, biking, snowshoeing, skiing, hunting, dog sledding, and more. The letter G is gopher, and we think it's really great. A silly drawing long ago made us the gopher state. Minnesota is often referred to as the Gopher State, a nickname resulting from an 1857 satirical cartoon showing 9 gophers with the heads of local politicians. They were pulling a locomotive and saturnizing legislative action for a $5 million railroad proposal. The nickname remained, and later the University of Minnesota picked it up as well by naming their mascot Goldie the Golden Gopher. H is for Henry Hastings Sibley. It was 1858 when he became the governor and we became a state. In 1849, Minnesota became a territory with the Missouri and White Earth Rivers forming its western boundary. At that time, Henry Hastings Sibley, 1811 to 1891, was serving as a delegate to Minnesota Territory. When Minnesota became a state in 1858, he was elected as its first governor. He served from 1858 to 1860. There are many places in Minnesota that are named after Henry Sibley. How many can you name? H is also for hockey. The United States Hockey Hall of Fame is located in Eveleth. It is a shrine of national importance honoring the legacy of United States ice hockey. I is for Itasca. Watch the Mississippi flow as it begins its journey to the Gulf of Mexico. Itasca State Park is Minnesota's oldest state park. It was established in 1891 to protect the headwaters of the Mississippi River, where it begins its 2,552-mile journey to the Gulf of Mexico. Itasca State Park is more than 32,000 acres in size and hosts more than 100 lakes. Here, amidst the pines, you can actually walk across the mighty Mississippi River. Now, J is Judy Garland. She deserves a great applause. She played the role of Dorothy in the film Wizard of Oz. Judy Garland, 1922 to 1969, was born Frances Ethel Gum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. It was in this town that she and her sisters sang and danced at her father's movie house. Eventually, her family moved to California, and in 1939, she starred as Dorothy in the film The Wizard of Oz. Judy Garland went on to become a well known singer and actress. You can visit the Judy Garland Museum in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. The letter K is Kitten Ball, a fun and easy game. First played to keep the firemen fit, now softball is its name. The roots of organized softball began when Minneapolis Fire Lieutenant Louis Rober directed his fire company to play a game that had originated in Chicago. This game, with a soft ball and a bat 2 inches in diameter, flourished when Rober's fire company named themselves the Kittens and began to play the game of kitten ball against other fire companies. And K is Garrison Keeler with his Minnesota show. A Prairie Home Companion is heard on the radio. Please tune in, it's ready to begin. Garrison Keeler, born and raised in Anoka, studied English at the University of Minnesota. In 1974, he launched his variety radio show, A Prairie Home Companion, on Minnesota Public Radio. It is based upon life in a fictional Minnesota town called Lake Wabagon and is heard by approximately 3.9 million United States listeners each week. L is for loon, watch it float back and forth. Its beautiful sound is our song of the North. The common loon, or Gavia immer, is the Minnesota state bird and one of the oldest living species of birds. Loons make nurseries for their young in quiet, shallow lake or pond coves, which are plentiful throughout the state. The common loon is notorious for its three distinct and haunting calls: the wail, the yodel, and the tremolo. And L is for lakes. We do have a lot. With more than 10,000, they're easy to spot. Often referred to as the land of 10,000 lakes, there are actually more than 11,000 10-plus acre lakes in Minnesota. The largest inland lake is Red Lake, which is over 288,000 acres in size. Other large lakes include Mille Lacs, Leech, Winnebagoshish, and Lake Vermilion. Mall of America begins with M, the place for shopping fun, the largest in the USA, a treat for everyone. The Mall of America in Bloomington is the nation's largest retail and entertainment complex, boasting more than 520 stores. The mall, which is also known as the Mega Mall to most Minnesotans, was completed in 1992 and is one of the most visited destinations in the United States and has more visitors annually than the Grand Canyon, Disney World, and Graceland combined. N is for North Star, leading us forth. L'Étoile du Nord means the Star of the North. Minnesota's official motto is L'Étoile du Nord, a French saying that means the North Star. So Minnesota is often called the North Star State. The phrase appears on the state seal and other official documents and was created to acknowledge the North Star, otherwise known as Polaris. This symbol represents the forward reach into the United States, as well as the spirit of French speaking explorers who were important to the establishment of Minnesota. As the star nearest the North Star marks the tail of the Little Dipper and always reveals the direction north to an observer. O is for ore boat that waits near the shore to fill with the cargo we call iron ore. Prospectors and explorers headed for northeastern Minnesota when they heard reports of gold being discovered there. Since that time, iron ore has played an important part in the development of Minnesota, and especially the settling of Minnesota's Iron Range, which is located in a portion of northeastern Minnesota, often referred to as the Arrowhead region. Iron ore was first discovered on the Vermilion Iron Range in the mid 1880s, followed by the discovery of iron ore on the nearby Mesabi Iron Range, which was the largest iron ore deposit of the Lake Superior region. By the turn of the century, Minnesota led the nation by producing more iron ore than all other ranges combined. The Iron Range of Minnesota also includes the Cuyuna Range, discovered in 1890s, which lies east and north of Brainerd. P is pink and white lady slippers in the morning dew. Some call it the moccasin flower because it's shaped like a shoe. The pink and white lady's slipper, or showy lady's slipper, is the official state flower of Minnesota and is actually an orchid species that thrives in damp, low-lying areas such as bogs, swamps, and woods. The lady slippers grow slowly and may take many years to produce a flower. Also called the moccasin flower because of its shoe-like shape, the lady slipper is special and rare and is illegal to pick. Q is for the many quilts sewn by many hands. People came to Minnesota from many distant lands. Winter has always been a time for quilting, the sewing of a special blanket that often tells stories through its colors and patterns. It is a tradition that many ethnic groups and cultures in Minnesota have continued throughout the years. Not so long ago, Minnesota became home to immigrants from European areas such as Scandinavia, Germany, Poland, and Italy, as they came to work in the lumber camps, mines, and shipping industries. Today, Minnesota enjoys even greater diversity in its cultures, with the largest concentration of Hmong in the United States, as well as the nation's second largest population of Tibetans. R is for the red pine. Its bark is reddish brown. Its needles grow in sets of two with pine cones for its crown. The Minnesota state tree is called the red pine, or Pinus resinosa, due to its reddish brown bark. It stands approximately 60 to 100 feet tall when mature, and its long green needles grow in pairs. Often called the Norway pine, it did not actually come from Norway, but was named by early European explorers who thought it was the same type of tree they had seen in Norway. And R is for the rivers. Watch them flowing wild and free. Minnesota, Red, and Mississippi are our biggest three. Minnesota has numerous rivers. The Mississippi, Minnesota, and the Red River are the three largest rivers in the state. These rivers and others have played important roles in the development of agriculture and lumber industries of the past. Now, S is for the sugar beets. We do love to boast that in the whole United States, our farmers grow the most. Sweet treat. Minnesota leads the nation in the production of sugar beets, producing more than 8 million tons of sugar beets per year. These sugar beets are primarily processed into white and brown sugars and thrive in approximately 25 Minnesota counties, although most of the production is in the Red River Valley area. T is for Twin Cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul. Divided by a river, both are loved by all. Minneapolis and St. Paul are the two largest cities in Minnesota, affectionately nicknamed the Twin Cities. They are divided by the Mississippi River. St. Paul is the state capital, and Minneapolis hosts a thriving business, retail, theater, and arts atmosphere, as well as the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome. St. Paul has always been the capital city of Minnesota. There have been three different Capitol buildings, with the most recent being built in 1905. It is well known for its outdoor statue, a gold-leafed copper and steel grouping known as the quadriga or progress of the state. In it, there are four horses which represent the power of nature: earth, wind, fire, and water. There are two women who symbolize industry and agriculture, which together symbolize civilization. Lastly, the man standing on top represents prosperity. St. Paul is the capital. It's where the laws are made. Minneapolis has the Metrodome, where many sports are played. U is for the underground mine, deep and out of sight. The miners worked extracting ore with very little light. When mining operations at the Tower Sudan underground mine ceased in the early 1960s, the mine, which goes 2,400 feet beneath the surface, became Tower Sudan State Park, hosting tours below the ground. Here, visitors can experience the inner workings of an actual underground mine. Over time, it has become the host place for a high energy physics lab located at the bottom of the mine, where scientists use its depth to filter out cosmic rays that interfere with sensitive scientific experiments. At this time, scientists from all over the world, through the University of Minnesota, are trying to measure particles called neutrinos, which are smaller than a nuclei of atoms, in the effort to discover what the universe is made of. V is for Vikings. Some believe they came in ships and left behind a ruined stone to tell us of their trips. Many people believe that Vikings visited the area we now know as Minnesota as early as the 14th century. The Kensington Ruined Stone, a stone with a runic Viking inscription, was found in a field in Minnesota by a farmer named Olaf Oman. And the inscription, once deciphered, was said to tell a tale of Viking expedition in the year of 1362. This stone, however, has proved to be the point of much discussion between those who believe it is valid and those who don't. Regardless of its authenticity, Viking heritage and Viking lore have made an impact on Minnesota and can be seen throughout the state, as well as in the name of the professional football team, the Minnesota Vikings. W is for walleye. It is our favorite fish, and also for the wild rice that makes a tasty dish. Yum, yum. The walleye is the state fish of Minnesota. It is fun fish to catch, and although it lives in all parts of the state, it thrives in the large, cool lakes of northern Minnesota. Wild rice is an aquatic grass and the only cereal grain that is native to the United States. It is the state grain of Minnesota and has long been hand harvested by Native Americans, also harvested by commercial producers who use specialized machines. Minnesota grows more than 6 million pounds of wild rice per year. X marks the town of Walnut Grove. Come and take a peek, where Laura Ingalls Wilder lived on the banks of Plum Creek. Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote children's books such as Little House on the Prairie, Little House in the Big Woods, On the Banks of Plum Creek, and By the Shores of Silver Lake. Her book Little House on the Prairie was made into a television show portraying the Ingalls family living in Walnut Grove. Laura Ingalls and her family actually lived in a town called Walnut Grove, Minnesota, for a brief time when Laura was a young girl, in a dugout home near the banks of Plum Creek. And Y is for the yellow fields rolling in the sun. Canola, corn, and sunflowers make oil for everyone. And don't forget our prairies. They are beautiful and mellow. In southern Minnesota, fields of blue and green and yellow. Oil crops such as yellow flowered canola, sunflowers, and corn produce oil used for frying and baking. Minnesota is one of the leading producers of oil crops, turning out more than 1 billion pounds of vegetable oil per year. When settlers came to Minnesota, a vast, abundant, tall grass prairie existed over much of western and lower Minnesota. These prairies were a complex ecosystem of plants and grasses and included animals such as free roaming bison and pronghorn antelope. Today, less than 1% of that native prairie remains. Minnesota is dedicated to preserving those remaining remnants, and you can learn about them at sites such as Prairie at Blue Mounds, Kellogg Weaver Dunes, Hole in the Mountain Preserve near the South Dakota Minnesota border, the Ordware Prairie Preserve in west central Minnesota, and the Blue Stem Prairie Preserve near Moorhead, which is designated as the State Scientific and Natural Area. Z is for below zero. We are known for chilly places, but even when it's cold outside, we still wear smiling faces. Minnesota is known for its northernmost position of all the United States. As well, International Falls has earned the title Nation's Icebox, not only for its cold weather, but also for its cold weather research laboratory, which tests equipment and products to see how they react to extreme cold temperatures. Although Minnesota is known for chilly weather, Minnesotans have a long standing reputation for enjoying outdoor activities such as skiing, snowmobiling, snowshoeing, ice fishing, skating, sledding, and more. In Minnesota, hearts are warm and friendly as can be, and you've just learned about it in Minnesota, A to Z.